Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking About the Big Stuff podcast with Michael Cole and Matthew Cravat. I am Michael Cole.
And I am Matthew Cravat.
Matthew doesn't know what tonight's subject is, even though it was sent ahead of time, almost 30 minutes
I read
ago.
it, but that was hours ago. And I didn't reply to it. I didn't do any thought. I was like, oh, at lunch, I better look at this. And then at lunch, I ate lunch.
Yeah, life gets away from us.
I had a busy day at work today. A lot of stuff going on.
So,
as my friend Lauren said, it's a busy day in digital.
yeah. So I had a idea for a topic that I think is interesting for you and I because
it's a great idea. I am 100% on board with this idea. It's one of the best ones you've ever had. I'm so excited to be part of it. I'm looking forward to it.
Because of the difference in age between our children, I thought that this would be kind of
children. That's the idea. It's got to do with children.
Yep. So the premise, even though the title may not necessarily, the title of the episode is "What Our Kids Really Think About Our Parenting Skills." The concept that I was thinking of is,
or how I learned to love the bomb. But that's fine.
At what point do you? And I'm sure this is like the sex talk. This is like so many other talks where it's not a talk. It's a multiple. It's an ongoing conversation throughout the years. Have you talked to your kids about your parenting? Like, your kids are all adults. Have you talked to them about, like, have you gotten their feedback on what you did well and what you didn't do well as a parent?
Listen, audience, come here. Come in close, audience. I have no idea what he's talking about this topic. Why the hell would I ask my kids what they think of my parenting? They're kids. They don't know what they're talking about. So everything I say is going to be bullshit. This is going to be the whole bullshit episode. I'm going to lie.
Fast forwarded through everything. It fast forwarded through everything, so I heard you. So were you starting to understand where I was going with the topic based on what I started saying?
Yes. You think I give a shit what my kids think about my parenting enough to have a series of conversations with them about it? What planet are you from? What kind of millennial hole did you grow out of when you think that a Gen Xer like me gives a flying fuck what my kids think about my parenting technique? I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and they're going to suffer or they're going to benefit. Ain't my business. Ain't my business.
Okay. For 1 second, I'm going to pretend like you mean that for real. If you have these conversations with your kids, even if you're not doing it to become a better parent, the conversation can be helpful for your children to understand why you parented in such a way, to decide when they become parents, if they become parents, how they are going to take those particular things. That's why,
because kids, they don't listen. Kids don't listen. There's no benefit to talking to kids.
I have had these conversations with my parents, mostly as an adult. I'm sure my dad would tell us, this is why we're doing this. This is why we're,
He's one of my best friends, by the way, your dad. He loves me.
Glad we're changing the narrative on that. That's awesome. But I'm serious here. And so, like, sometimes I will talk to Logan about it a little bit. I know that he is at an age where he doesn't give a shit if I tell him why he can't have something or why he can't.
I believe Logan said you're a really good parent because you don't care what he does and you let him do stuff.
He has said that. But I'm saying, like, if in the process of doing something parenting wise, we'll tell him, for example, like, oh, we just think that it's really important that you know how to do this, or that you learn to do this for yourself, because it's going to be something that you're going to need. Now that I've said that, and you can make jokes, but, like, genuinely, what is your genuine thought on this topic?
Kids don't know shit. So my genuine talk. That's my genuine take. So I had a conversation with my oldest, and I have talked about it, and he's complained about how I raised him different than his siblings.
Sure.
And I'm like, you are insane. And he's like, you rode me so hard to get all A's. I'm like, on what planet did we ride you hard? You were a perfectionist and you tried to get A's, we did not care. Not for a second. I don't know where you got in your head
Yeah.
that we cared if you got A's. We never got all A's in our careers. We never thought it was important. So a lot of so what I'm saying is there's a lot of perception on the side on one side or the other of what the parenting and parent did experience was
Oh yeah.
that not necessarily matching up to reality.
Yeah, and I think that that absolutely comes into play. I also think that that perception changes. Like right now,
And
if I
Jacob's upset that I didn't teach him to unzip his pants and just pull his penis out of his underwear to pee. I let him pull his pants down a little bit and send him to kindergarten still doing that. He was the only one in kindergarten doing that. That was the one parenting thing he was most mad about.
okay, speaking of pulling penises out, I have a question.
Let's talk about penis pulling.
I have a question because this is one of those things where I realized recently that I don't know if I'm doing it the way everyone does it or I'm just doing it the way I've done it forever, and if it's really weird or not, because there weren't partitions at a bathroom and I became self-conscious. The way that if I'm wearing gym shorts, something that doesn't have a fly on it, the way that I pull my penis out to pee at a urinal is I pull the penis and the testicles out because I can't really pee if the waistband is in between the penis and the testicles. Am I normal or is that weird?
Depends how erect I
am. If you're erect, you probably shouldn't be peeing. I don't know.
I can aim higher and arc it.
Yeah. Anyway, so there we go. Now we have some patron content.
Some patrons love the pee comments.
Seriously, is the waistband thing weird or
no?
The testicle part of it.
I think it depends on a couple of factors. I think a lot of it is elasticity of the waistband. Like
okay.
I don't want to be in a position where the waistband is going to slap my penis and I just pee up my nose.
Okay, that's
so
a good
I think
point.
sometimes it's a safety factor that you have to use some testicular fortitude to protect. I don't usually wear gym shorts like that, so it's not that I really deal with on a daily basis. But I'm thinking like if I was at a pool, bathing, in a bathing suit and ran into the restrooms to use the bathroom because I'm not a savage like you, peas in the pool. I think that would be the way to go.
Yeah,
Alex. I also might use a stall rather than the trowel, rather than being out in the open.
No.
In that case.
I would never rather use a stall. Yeah. All right. So anyway, back to Jacob.
Anyway, we got anyway there, Sarah. That wasn't my fault. That one.
So Jacob's what, 27? Isn't that he just turned 27?
He did. He is.
I don't know if he listens to the podcast, but happy birthday. Anyway, so he's 27 and Logan's obviously 8, and so
they're very similar in age.
Yeah, no, but I'm sure Jacob now would have a different conversation with you than Jacob 10 years ago would have had with you about your parenting style, your parenting things. And Logan right now, Logan's 8, so a lot of parenting comes down to I want this thing, you're not letting me do or giving me this thing or whatever the case is. Therefore, I don't like this. And as we get older, hopefully we can, even sometimes it frustrates us, we can still see the logic behind it better. And so that's why I wanted to have the conversation to see when do the conversations become productive. It sounds like in your case they have yet to become productive.
There's not a lot of conversations. I could do what I tell them. And I weirdly, I don't know if it's parenting or if it's nature, nurture, or whatever. But my kids were always very understanding about limits, except from where Joseph's autism played a role in peculiarities. But with the exception of those times, they were very just, go with the flow kids. I remember we actually took a parenting kind of class that there was, for my kids, a lot of, I took a class once, I was trying to remember where I was, in parenting. Molly and I took a workshop at Glaxo, and they were talking about the importance of structure. And I'm like, I'm an improviser. I don't have structure. And I think when your kids have a lot of structure and then you break the structure, that's when they have a breakdown. Oh my God, my structure broke. If they never have a structure, then they never care that there's no structure, was my theory. Joseph's autism required a little structure for him, so that was a little tough. But for Jacob and Leah, it was kind of fine. They always had to go with the flow mentality for those things. So even we never had a lot of trouble with saying no to them and and those kinds of things. And I don't know if it's because of how we raise them or if it's just because of their natural nature. Like I have we have a fond memory of going to the Golden Corral buffet when my brother and his wife and my nieces were visiting, and when his nieces, who had never been in a buffet like that before, saw the chocolate fountain and all the desserts and stuff, they were just not having food. Food was over for them. They were just throwing a fit that they wanted dessert.
Yeah.
And so they got dessert, like while my kids were eating their first plate of food. And Jacob said something about, "Oh, I want to go get some cake." And then we're like, "No, you're going to finish the food on your plate or you get nothing else. You have to finish what you took." And my sister-in-law said, semi under her voice, but obviously loud enough for it to hear, "Empty threats." And my Bobby looked up and said, "There are no empty threats. There are only promises in our house." And Jacob and Joseph finished everything on their plate. And then by the time they finished the food on their plate, Jacob's like, "I want more spaghetti and another slice of pizza." Like they wanted more food once they ate the food.
Yeah.
And the shiny object of the dessert was pushed away from them for a second.
Yeah.
But it was a little thing to us like, oh, my nieces get whatever they want and they throw a tantrum, mostly the older one, but the other one gets to follow in the wake and reap the benefit or the negativity of it. But my kids knew that, no, the rules are the rules and you follow them or you don't.
Yeah.
If you don't follow them, you just don't get nothing. And I'm lucky that with Joseph, we caught on early that he had, a touch of autism. And so we adapted that for him. We weren't hardcore, like holding it against him. You're going to sit at that table all night kind of thing, because we realized there's no way he's going to. He's not going to eat that. So everything for him, look, my younger brother had dyslexia that was caught in 1975 or 6 when nobody knew what it was. We had a resident at our pediatrician who had just was like he was an expert, cutting edge person on it, and he caught that Jeremy was dyslexic at a time when nobody else would have diagnosed it.
Yeah.
So I grew up with the idea of learning disability in the house and how you handle it different. So we were able to kind of diagnose it without having an actual diagnosis for Joseph for a long time. So I didn't make too many bad parenting mistakes, I don't think, with him holding him to standards he couldn't meet.
Yeah.
But like my kids knew the expectations of him and they were good with it. So I never had that, my relationship being my job is to set boundaries and say no, because they took the boundaries well.
Sure. So I want to tell
the touch of the chisel might have helped that too for Joseph. They like boundaries.
Yeah. So I want to tell a quick story and then I want to kind of expound on something you said. When my sister must have been 6 or so, maybe 7, and my mom and our neighbor took my sister and their daughter, who was roughly Sam's age, to like shopping somewhere. And it wasn't taking the kids to shop, it was taking the kids with them while they shopped. And it wasn't shopping for the kids, what I'm saying. And my sister, the neighbor girl, she told my sister, if we lick these cups that we want, they have to buy them for us. And they were like New Kids on the Block cups or something like that. Plastic collectibles or whatever.
I would love to lick the New Kids on the Block.
So my sister and this girl licked the cups and put them in the cart. And when the parents went to put them back, the girl goes, we licked them already. And so you got to buy them.
We peed on them. We marked our territory.
So my mom and her mom each had to buy one of these cups. And as they were leaving the store, the mom gave the girl a cup, and my mom took the cup and put it in the trash.
I was going to say, my dad would have trashed that so fast on the way out of the store.
Oh.
It would have been a whooshing sound of the vacuum of air taking its place.
Yeah, he did it. My mom did it right in front of both my sister and the other girl. And
this is what licking it gets. You just get to watch it be thrown away.
Yep. Whereas if my sister had asked for it, she might have gotten it. Who knows? But I just thought that was like with your empty threats kind of comment, maybe think of that. So what I want to say is, so you're talking about boundaries and holding your kids kind of responsible for things, but that's not necessarily what I meant when I said parenting. There's lots of, parenting, unfortunately, we do kind of...
Yeah, I know you didn't mean that was the entirety of parenting, but I know you said at Logan's age, that's a lot of what he sees. I understand what you meant. But I just wanted to cast aspersions on you because it's fun.
Yeah. There's a lot of parenting that I think that it's helpful to talk about with, like, why we do certain things. Like, I remember... So I have more experience of this as a child than as a parent so far, obviously, because I've been I was a child
You've
for
been childish longer than you've been parentage.
yeah, yep. But I remember, like, for example, and I was 16 or so when this particular incident happened. But my dad, this wasn't even a parenting thing; it was more of a like role model thing. But like my dad, somebody gave my dad way too much cash back on like a deposit that we were getting back, like hundreds of dollars too much, and it was like a kid at my age, like 16 at the time. And my dad kept being like, "No, you need to take this. Like, this is not. You do not owe me this part of You're giving me 100 or 200 or whatever dollars too much." And so my dad, after we like went through this for like 30 minutes with the kid, my dad and I are walking out to the car, and my dad explained to me why he did it. And he said, "I did it for a couple of reasons. One is we don't need the money. That kid will get fired if he doesn't have the money. If he incorrectly, that could change his life the way it goes." And he goes, "And it's important for you to know that we never there has never been a situation where we've needed the money so bad to ruin someone else's life." And he explained his thinking of it and how he was doing it on purpose to set an example. In addition to, he would have done it without me being there too, but
But he wanted you to notice why it was done
right.
specifically.
And he wanted me to make note of it. And it's been 34 years or 24 years, and I still remember it. And so like it made sense. And my dad has had a lot of those conversations with me. We've had conversations where we've talked about it a little bit on the podcast before, but they were spankers. My dad specifically. I don't remember my mom. I think she spanked us once, and then my dad did the rest of the time.
My mom rarely spanked. She just yelled, knowing the spank came. And whoever was sitting closest to the stairway down from the bedroom got hit first. And then my father would say, "Who did what?"
Yeah.
So the end seat got hit before the question. And sometimes it was, "I burned myself at the stove," was the answer of who did what. But, as soon as the voice was raised, somebody was getting hit.
Yeah, well, we never got randomly hit. The spanks were always like, "Okay, you did this."
It wasn't random. It was, if you're sitting in that seat, you did it.
But my parents, more so my dad, but my parents and I have talked about it a couple times because we don't spank Logan. I don't know that my sister. I don't think my sister spanks her kids. I don't think her husband spanks their kids. I could be wrong, but we've had that conversation, and there was always a little bit of worry that would be seen as judgmental when I would say something like that in front of my parents, and my dad would be like, "We know more than we knew then. I thought that was the right thing to do. From all kinds of evidence that there's better ways of going about it." And he goes, if I was to become a parent again now, I wouldn't do that the same way. And I think that's a really important thing.
So can I tell a parenting story about a friend of mine?
Sure.
So this is my friend Matt. He's married to my friend Samantha. And I witnessed a really cool parenting thing with him. We were at his brother-in-law's 40th birthday party. It was a pool party,
Yeah.
and a bunch of the birthday boys, nephews and nieces, were all in the pool. And Matt's son was playing with older kids who were like not his direct cousins, I guess. Like he hadn't met them. Like it was his first time really meeting these kids, I think, from what I was gathering.
Yeah.
And they were playing rough, and he tried to play rough back, but he's going to get hurt because he's the smaller one. I don't think he's used to playing with big rough kids too. Like he's not aware of it.
Yeah.
And so Matt calls him over, and he turns to me and Madhavi as his son's on his way over from the pool. He goes, Mike, if you had to guess, how old would you say his son is?
6.
6. So he says to me, "How do you explain 'let the Wookiee win' to a 6-year-old?"
Nice.
And he really had this conversation where he tried to, because his son didn't know Star Wars really yet, other than, cultural absorption, I guess. So he was trying to explain the idea of, there's this movie we saw where someone's playing with a giant like Bigfoot, and you don't want to get the Bigfoot mad because even if you're right, the Bigfoot will rip your arms off. And he's trying to explain that someone's playing with his bigger kids, even though you're right, like he took the floaty from you, you're right. it's not worth fighting with him about. Sometimes you have to let the Wookiee win. And I was like, that is a brilliant parenting story that I will have to retell at some point.
Nice. I think I was at that same party.
Could have been.
And I witnessed that same child at one point getting frustrated because the child was the smallest child there, and he was playing Marco Polo in a pool where a good portion of the pool was over his head, and he was just struggling a little bit. And the older kids that he didn't know very well, were being a little less, giving him a little less grace on
not as supportive as they could be
about him opening his eyes or whatever, and they were saying he was cheating, and he was so frustrated, and he was, instead of losing his shit, which is what I would have done if I was a 6-year-old in his situation, he turned to the 10-year-old and goes, "It's over. Move on to somebody else. Leave me alone." And I was just like, oh my God, he's so smart. He also happens to be, I think, the funniest of the kids that's not mine that was at that party. They're all funny, but that is the funniest of the kids. Every time, this is my nephew, Josh, and every time he sees me and his parents...
Oh my God, what a coincidence that Matt and Sam are parents to your nephew.
Yeah. Every time he sees me, and his parents hate this, but I think it's so funny, is he walks up and grabs my big fat belly and goes, "Look at that belly." And they get so mad. And so now he's like learned to do it not in front, or he'll just kind of grab it and like we both get it.
You know what I'm thinking.
Yeah, he's so funny. Yeah, I almost brought Logan in because Logan's downstairs alone. I almost brought him in for this episode so I could have him chime in, but
I'll bring the little fucker up here. It'll be fun.
Except I don't want his face on screen. I told him, I was like, if you need to come in while I'm on the podcast, knock on the door, put on a mask, and come in. And he was like, put on a mask? I'm like, find a mask in your room. Yeah.
It's like when we did our Truckle Down Media crossover with Brooklyn Brothers Food Review, and we reviewed Dave's hot chicken place, and I had to make sure that he was out of frame on my zooms of all the pictures because he was sitting next to me, and I didn't want him exposed to the interwebs.
I don't mind as much. Like, I think like his hand was visible. I don't mind that stuff. I just don't want. I don't want his.
There was
face.
Nothing identifying. Yeah, there was no identifying features.
He wants to come on the podcast and do an episode again, but and hide his face with like a
Can we do a voice synthesizer on him too?
Yeah,
I'd love to talk to your dad about my situation.
I'm in witness protection and
a silhouette.
But yeah, he really wants to come back on. He also has been talking because we made a YouTube channel for him to make videos, but it's private, so you have to have like a QR code to even see the videos that he's got. And he keeps talking about how on his 18th birthday he's going to do a big face reveal, and then he'll be a YouTube celebrity, and that will be his job. I'm like, well, we're not making videos that quickly.
Father like son.
Yeah, well, he's cute and funny and smart.
My brother's doing the same thing, and he's not cute and funny anymore.
I think which brother are we talking about?
The good one, Jeremy.
I was gonna say, oh yeah, he's the cute one, regardless. But you said the good one, so that kind of stole.
He's Jets Chaos for all of you in YouTube land. Look for Jets Chaos, my brother's YouTube channel that he would love to be his real job. He's got more than 5,000 subscribers. You know, so
damn.
He's been building. He's been working it hard for the last couple of years. When did he start? 2021, I think he started it. I'm working hard.
Jets Chaos. That picture does not really look like him.
Is it a cartoon animated version of a bald guy?
It looks almost like an AI, but it looks like, I would argue that it doesn't look like, it looks more like a Latino guy, and it looks a little more like muscular. Like, I don't know, he just looks like a little jacked.
Okay, well, the one that's in his profile picture that holding the football, that's some AI bullshit.
Yeah, that's
The
what I'm
one,
talking about.
the one that's in the heading of his channel is something is a piece of art a friend of mine did,
Oh,
where he
okay.
did actually
Oh,
all
that,
three of
yeah.
us for our hot sauce channel. He did all three of us, and then I broke out Jeremy's avatar by itself so he can use it for this. The one that's in his profile, is some random AI crap. I don't know what the hell it is.
Yeah. So, I'm sure I know
So I'll say that the parenting between me and my brothers was drastically different. So if we
yeah.
go to the next generation going back up, is that Lee was super high status all the time and kind of just got away with anything. And and Jeremy was the cute baby at every age. So he got nothing. And I got all the abuse. Everything was my fault. Like there were times like my dad would accuse me of drinking the last can of Pepsi that was in the house and he's got nothing to drink because of me. And I'm like, I was with you, Dad. We were out. And my brother, seeing me getting hit for it, would bring out the empty can of Pepsi from his room. So I drank it. I didn't realize it was the last one. My father would be like, "You're covering for your brother." Like it was always Lee's too old to have done it. Jeremy's too young to do it. You did it. And also, I don't know if I mentioned that. I may have mentioned this on the previous when we were talking about my dad's passing. But uh, and in the hospital, I talked about when I was with him in the hospital, the fact how everything, all the responsibility has been mine always, even since I was a teenager. I come home from college. My Jeremy lived at home, and there'd be a chores list waiting for me to do over Thanksgiving. Like I have to shovel the snow. I'm like, Jeremy lives here. Why am I being woken up at 6 in the morning to shovel the snow? And in the last week in the hospital, I said something about like that to my father, and I'm like, then when we get home, he's like, you have to do this. I'm like, Lee's there right now. We can just call him. And he goes, Matthew, don't you understand? The reason we always save everything for you to do is we trust you to do it right. And I was like, oh, that changes everything. Like all that's been dumped on me my whole life was a higher level of trust in me than in my brothers. Yeah, I'll cut that and put it where they can find it. But they
We,
both always bitch that I'm the favorite son, but like now discover, oh, there's a little truth to it in that respect. Not the favorite, but the most trusted, at least.
yeah. Um,
And the funniest, take that to the bank.
I mean, I didn't talk to either of your brothers enough to see if they were as funny, but
They're not. You watch all our damn videos. They got some skills. Jeremy's goofy funny. Lee does decent improv support work, but yeah, I'm the funny. I
nice,
mean, they're all funnier than the average person by far, but they're not as funny as me because I'm so much funnier than the average
nice. Anyway,
person. You know what it's like to be the funny one in the room. You know.
I used to know, and then I started getting in rooms with you, and now I don't know anymore.
Right. It's just that I'm weirdly over the top.
Yeah,
Like you're like
it's
I'm
funny.
crazy high level.
It's funny because I've had people like tell me like that haven't really watched the podcast that much. They've been like, "Oh, you're funnier than your co-host," and I'm like, "Oh, you haven't watched the podcast." And then
Yeah,
then they watch an episode. They're like, "Oh, he's hilarious." I'm like, "Yeah,
yeah. Well, it used to be like when when I did improv and people would come see their friends in my group, and my friend like people were like, "I'm gonna hate you." Like I finally get everyone from work to come, and all they talk about Monday is Matthew, Matthew, Matthew.
yeah, oh yeah." So what I was going to say next is, um, did you ever have conversation? Well, I guess you kind of just answered the question a little bit about,
Try to be ahead of you.
but did your parents explain why they parented in any other ways other than giving you all the work? Um, do you ever have these conversations with your parents?
Um,
No, they were hippies and they never did anything wrong.
no, I know. I tried to beat the shit out of us, but I knew why my dad did because my mother used to say it all the time. It's because it's what his dad did. His mother yelled, his father would hit him and his brothers. So he did the same thing. Like my mother, when I was a kid, I knew that was the fact. My mother would apologize for yelling. She's like, I can't help getting mad and yelling at you, even though a minute later it means you're going to get hit. I don't want you to get hit, but I can't help that's what he does. But I
Yeah,
can't help yelling. So I knew as a kid, it's his learned reaction. Hear a yell, smack a kid.
yeah,
And but overall, my dad did a really good job. Like, I mean, overall, I really liked the way I came out and the way that I
yeah,
was raised. I'm not justifying spankings. I'm not saying that. I'm not doing the survivors. fallacy. Well, it didn't kill me, so it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying everything else that he did, instilling values in us, instilling self-confidence, uh, the lesson he taught of sometimes you just have to play the game.
Yeah. When it comes to the survivor's fallacy, I really do think there's a difference between acknowledging that was the way of the time and continuing
and defending
it
it as the right way to do it.
The
Yeah.
survivor fallacy, I think, really applies to when you're like, I'm going to hit my kid because my parents hit me, and I'm alive and I'm still pretty good. You know, I've every time for the last few years, anytime I've ever heard someone say I got hit, and look at me, and I'm like, the fact that you're saying that is a red flag. Like that is the thing.
It's been fresh in my head because Madge Padge Tadge, Marjorie Taylor Greene, posted something about drinking raw milk. And I'm just going to say it's a position of Chocolate Diamond Media and talking about the big stuff. Don't fucking drink raw milk. And I've seen people defending it, saying, well, I grew up on a farm and I drank raw milk. And it's like, well, you know what? The people who got dead from drinking raw milk aren't on Facebook to say that. Like it's pure survivor fallacy. The only people who can say I did that when I was a kid were people who didn't die from it.
Yeah, but also if you took an egg and raised that egg and made it into a chicken and kept it in a particularly clean area by itself and then slaughtered and made that chicken and ate the raw chicken breast, you might not get salmonella because a lot of those things come from conditions and they're like, I don't remember what they call it.
Your cow on your farm is not the same as 300 dairy cows locked in a room together.
Right. So like they're, you know,
or the amount of milk that's going through whatever facility you got your raw milk from, that one gets contaminated, it's all contaminated.
Yeah, yeah. There's so many other things, and also there's a good chance that you could still die. You could still get salmonella. But I'm saying, spin the wheel and see if you get it. It's a little bit better chances in certain cases.
Yeah, I closed my eyes and walked across the highway and didn't get hit. So everyone should walk on the highway with their eyes closed. It's perfectly safe because I didn't get hit.
Yeah, it's so fucking stupid.
But so the survivor fallacy that was like that's like the thing of like people who died aren't here to tell their story.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
Yeah, but overall, my dad, my parents did a good job. We talked about the trust thing. The other thing my father talked about with me once about parenting was he thought it was important that I be allowed to do anything I want as long as I did it at home. Because he said like the dangerous thing about drinking is driving, or the dangerous thing about or getting taken advantage of because you're drunk. The dangerous thing about sex is getting caught in the back of a car by a cop. If you and your girlfriend are gonna have sex, I want it to be in your house where you're safe and you have condoms and it's not spur of the moment. That so there was a kind of a doing it in the house was always okay kind of thing when I was growing up. And that made me a lot less rebellious than I think a lot of my friends. There wasn't so much, oh, we can go, I know my dad left beer in the fridge. I'm like, yeah, my dad doesn't drink beer. I mean, I guess he'd bring it home if I asked him to.
Yeah. I looked like this at like 19, so I was the one who bought beer for my friends. I would just go into the liquor store, put the stuff on the counter, and 7 out of 10 times they wouldn't card me, and if they did card me, I'd go, "Oh, it's in the car. Hold on one second,"
Lovin'?
and I would just leave. But like then, and I'd go to a different liquor store.
Yeah. So when I was 17, the age to drink in New York was 18.
Oh wow.
And my birthday's in November, so most of my friends are turning 18 before me and legally able to drink. And by the time I turned 18, they moved it to 19.
Yeah.
And right before I turned 19, they moved it to 21. So all my friends were grandfathered. Like if you were already 18, you were drinking. So most of my friends were able to drink legally. But we were in New York City, and nobody cares if you drink underage in New York City. You go in bars, nobody checked IDs.
Well, you're a lot less likely to drive. Like,
right. Yeah. There was no drinking and driving. It wasn't a thing. And especially for teenagers, because where are we driving to? We're in Brooklyn, where everything's there. So like there was literally when I was in college, Jeremy, when I was coming home on a Friday, would pick up beer for me at the Bodega on the way home from high school. He'd pick up a 6-pack for me on the way home. And he's clearly coming out of the high school. It's across the street from the school. And they didn't care. They sold drugs out of the Bodega. They didn't care if he buys underage beer.
Yeah.
I once had a buddy call me up when we were under 21 not young. I mean, we were in college, so we were like 19 or 20, whatever. We were just under 21. And he, my buddy calls me up and says, Matthew, you need to come to my house and drink all this beer I have. And I'm like, what? And he goes, my dad intentionally left beer in the fridge. He's gone all weekend. And it's like Sunday, whatever. He's going to be home in a couple hours. And he goes, if it's not gone, he's going to know I was stoned all weekend. Like, he's like if I drink beer, I wasn't getting stoned. I'm like, pour it down the fucking sink. And he's like, I'm Jewish. I can't do that.
Nice.
So I had to go and drink a couple of little 8-ounce pony cans of Budweiser back in the day.
Nice.
Yeah. That was a difference of parenting right there. It's I remember him and another kid being in my car once going to a bar mitzvah. That's a Jew party. And we're making noise and cutting up and whatever in the back. And my father's asking us a question about where we're going. You know, he's driving us in the back of my Jeep. And we didn't pay attention and we're still talking. And he says, asshole, shut the fuck up and answer the question. And my two friends were like, they've never heard their father curse ever. They're still, and like they would, if they had cursed in front of their fathers, they would be dead people. And like they were just in shock. It's like, and that was, we were like 12, 13 years old. They were just in shock. So yeah, I grew up with a different kind of dad.
I want to tell a story about the first time I heard my dad say fuck. My dad had a health event that was not a heart attack, but we thought it was a heart attack up until he was released from the hospital. On Friday night, Saturday night, we had school dance, and I had my driver's license, so I was either a junior or a senior. And I was prepping to look good for the dance, trying to clean up my eyebrows a little bit, like cut like this far across my eyebrow off. I go, shit. My parents are at the hospital still. I know my dad's getting released, but it takes a little while. So I call a friend, and I call Pat, and Pat just laughs and just can't.
Can I just say, you guys, real fast, just for a second? There's no more Massachusetts name than Pat for a friend. Like, I think you have to have a friend named Pat if you live in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I call Pat. Pat laughs and is incapable of speech. So I hang up on Pat. I call another friend, and at this point, I think I've got like all the eyebrow gone, and I'm like, I only have one eyebrow right now.
You're still shaving it as you're talking. You just keep going.
I think I had
gotta do something.
I think I had like tried to like neaten it up, and it was just gone.
So you're like the guy who's cut too much off the leg of a table, so he cuts a little bit off the other leg, and then that's off.
No, so it was just one eyebrow fully and one eyebrow fully gone. So I call another friend, and I'm like, what do I do? And he goes, obviously you gotta cut the eyebrow. You gotta shave the other eyebrow off. You can't have one eyebrow and not the other.
Cut the eyebrow off, shave your head, tell everybody you got cancer.
So I shaved
no other choice.
So I shaved both eyebrows off. And my parents are coming home a couple hours later. I'm not ready to go to the dance yet. And I put on a baseball hat, and I never wear baseball hats. And I put on this hat, and I'm wearing it about here.
It's what I wear to the school dance.
And my dad runs into the house in like a hospital Johnny, because my mom had brought his clothes that he had to the hospital. She had brought them back, the ones that he'd worn, and forgot to bring him a change of clothes. So he had to leave the hospital with two on, like one on backwards, one on frontwards. So he runs into the house because he doesn't want the neighbors seeing him.
Fucking escapee.
In the back door, and I'm in the kitchen, which is right by the back door, with my hat on, like right here. And him and my mom come in, and they're like, "What's up?" And I was like, "Not much. How you guys doing?" And my dad's like, "Why are you wearing your hat like that?" And he's like, "You never wear hats. What's going on?" And I was like, I had a bit of an accident, and I take the hat off, and he goes, "What the fuck did you do?" He was pissed. He just got out of the hospital, thought he had a heart attack. I'm thinking he's going to have another heart attack. He's like screaming, like, "This is so fucking stupid." And it was the first time I'd ever heard him say fuck, and he said it very...
about your fashion choices.
Fashion, yeah. My mom is incapable of speech because she's laughing so hard. And my dad is just like, "You look so fucking stupid." And then my mom's just laughing beside him. And eventually he's like, he looks so fucking. It turns to laughter, and they're both laughing at me. And so that's how I heard my dad say the F word for the first time. Fun fact is that on Monday or Tuesday, I went back to school. I went to the dance without eyebrows. I went to school Monday or Tuesday, and we had to play this stupid game in religion class where we were blind. There was 2 circles. There was an inner circle and an outer circle, and we had to blindfold the inner circle, and they had to touch the person's face and see if they could guess who it was.
Oh, God.
And they would shuffle us. It wouldn't just rotate us because that would be obvious. They would shuffle us, and anybody who got me would be like, Mike. Because I had no fucking eyebrows. So anyway, we get some good good content this week. Mm-hmm. The last couple of weeks, especially whenever it's just me and Alex, there is very little patron content. So I'm like, all right, that's kind of it. That sounds semi-inappropriate. I'll just cut it so the patrons have something. And when it's with you and me.
That's like, talk dirty to me. You're a hot girl.
Yeah.
It's something. I got something out there.
Yeah. The first time my dad heard me say the F word was during COVID. I was trying to hang something in Logan's room, and there was a weird wall screw, like a weird sheetrock, like anchor screw. And I called my dad because I couldn't figure out how to get it to go in. And my dad's like a super handyman. And so I called him. And as he picks up, sheetrock dust sprinkles into my eye. And I go, oh, fuck. So before we wrap things up.
I don't remember where my dad's first use of profanity around me, because it was probably when I was, a baby. And I don't remember his first time hearing it from me, because it was probably, once I could speak. But I do remember the first time he saw me drink a beer, because my dad does not drink alcohol. Like, he drank like a chocolate liqueur in college because he loves chocolate, got fucked up, and decided this is not a fun experience, never did it again. He was a pharmacy school. He abused some drugs in pharmacy. Like, he took uppers and stuff in pharmacy school to study at night because he was a pharmacy student, so he knew what to take and dosages, but he didn't take it for pleasure. And when I was like 18 or 19, I guess my buddy Howard and I picked up some Chinese food, and he picked up. His birthday's in March, so he looks 6 months old, 8 months old, whatever. So he was of legal drinking age. So he picked up beer and Chinese food on his way over to my house once, and he shows up and he's like, "I got beer and Chinese food. Let's hang out." It was during the summer or whatever. So I'm like, cool. So we're sitting in my kitchen and eating Chinese food and drinking beer, and my parents came home from wherever they were, and if it was a work day or a weekend. And my dad looks at us there. We got beer on the table, and he just kind of shakes his head and goes upstairs to his room. And Howard's like, "Oh shit, man, are we in trouble?" I said, "We're not in trouble." Like, but I imagine he's a little disappointed that I'm like mom, not him. My mother drinks. I think he's a little disappointed that I'm drinking at all. Not that upset that I'm drinking, but it's like, oh, you drink.
My dad, I don't know how much he ever drank, but he hasn't had a drink. Well, a couple caveats. He had not had a drink at all after his honeymoon with my mother, so their honeymoon, but my mom drinks somewhat. But he hadn't really had anything. He had not had any drinks after that until we were at a New Year's party when I was like 24 or 5. And they were handing out rum cake. And the woman who made the rum cake said, "My secret is that I add the rum after it cooks, not before.
So the alcohol doesn't burn out."
And my dad doesn't hear that, and she goes, "So who wants some rum cake?" And my dad goes, "Oh, I'll have a piece." And she hands him a piece, and I like really quietly said to my dad, "The cake has rum in it." And he goes, "Yeah, it's rum cake, but it cooks off." And I'm like, "No, you missed it. She just said she adds the rum afterwards." So he goes, "Oh." I'm like, "If you don't want to be rude, just take like a little bite and then slide it over, and I'll take a little bite, and we'll just kind of, because I don't want like alcoholic food. Like, that doesn't sound great to me." But like we like kind of like made it go away a little bit together, but like he 100% was like almost got not by anybody's fault, just by lack of communication at a party. Like his cake spiked.
I
And so that was the closest that he's had. And then we were at like a restaurant with my sister and the kids and my parents a couple of years ago, and my mom got a margarita, and my dad says, "Can I take a sip of that and see what it tastes like?" And my sister's eyes almost popped out of her head. My dad takes the gentlest little sip and goes, "Nah, still don't like alcohol." And it, that was like that had been almost 40 years of marriage at that point.
So I have a obligatory story about the time I got someone drunk against their will that I have to tell. Um, and I have a story potentially about the time my mom got plastered at a wedding, and that's an optional story. So I don't know what do you want to hear?
Do both, and then we'll start to wrap things up.
Okay, so the optional story first, I'll knock it out. My parents went to a wedding. My mom drinks at weddings. She drank three White Russians. What she was not aware was this bartender made like triples. My dad woke me up. It was like 1 in the morning whenever they came home. I was a teenager. I don't remember how old, but a teenager. He wakes me up. He goes, "What do you want to do? Carry your mother to the bathroom or clean the car?"
Nice.
Oh, that was great. So here's my obligatory. Hey, Mikey, I'm telling the story since Mikey, you'll be listening eventually. So I've mentioned Mikey, our stalwart listener who texts me random questions about the pod or comments, and I don't remember the context until later. Um, he worked at GlaxoSmithKline as I did, but he worked out in manufacturing, worked on the line, making Advair. If you used Advair back in the late '90s, early 2000s, whatever, he made it for you. Um, and we, the idiots, my comedy group, did a like lunchtime show, demo kind of show, and laugh and learn in the workplace, laugh in the workplace kind of thing. And it was like the week after he went from contract to permanent, so he was allowed to attend for the first time, and he always wanted to attend these kinds of things. And he was our audience volunteer. So um, he had a Captain America earring, Captain America shields and earring. So I made jokes about it. So we kind of connected, and he started taking our workshops. And I didn't teach the beginner workshops. I really didn't get to know him very well. And then we moved to a different location, and I, driving home from work from rehearsal one night, I saw that he was in front of me, way up near my house. I live like a half an hour from where we rehearsed. So the next time I asked about it, it turned out he lives in Zebulon and drives past my house on his way home. So I said, from now on, stop at my house, and we'll take turns driving the rest of the way. We'll carpool. So like the first or second time we did that, we're talking, like he's driving and we're getting to know each other, and we're in the middle of a good conversation when we get to my house, and I say, "Hey, do you want to come in, have a Pepsi or something, hang out a little bit, finish the conversation?" And he says, "Yeah," because we're discovering that we have a lot in common. We go inside and I open my fridge and I do not have any Pepsi or anything. And I got beer and I've got some apple cider. And he's like, "Apple cider sounds good." Now I meant hard cider in a bottle, which wasn't super popular back then. This was a long time ago. This was like over 22, 23 years ago. This was at least 23 or 24 years ago. Um, and like, it wasn't like it was a million ciders. There was like one brand that in the fall was out that you can get cider. And, he said cider thinking it's apple cider, not hard cider. And I pop one open. He's like, "Oh, this is cool as shit. It's in a bottle. What kind of fancy ass cider is Matthew buying?" So he, he had a beer when he was 18 and didn't like it, never drank again. And he was like in his 40s at this time. And so he's got no alcohol tolerance whatsoever. And as he's drinking it, he's getting warmer. He's getting warmer. And he got a little bit of a buzz from that one apple cider. And then I mentioned that he's like, "What's in this?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's not that much alcohol percentage." And he's like, "It's got what in it?" And so it's like I roofied him basically. I gave him an alcohol drink that he didn't expect. Um, and it was like the second time he had alcohol ever. And then there was one other time he did. I think mine was the second time, and there was one other time after. Maybe it was before, but just 10 years ago. I really wasn't sure. I don't want to get the story 100% wrong. But yeah, I drugged him, and I fucked him hard, and we became the best of friends. He's Leah's godfather.
Nice.
But I just say that was my fun alcohol story. But he doesn't drink until he came to my house.
Nice. So before we wrap things up completely, I want to, I guess, say, like, do you think there is a benefit, even though you seem to not have really done much of it, to talking to your children about how you're parenting
I go with what
methodology?
Socrates said. Socrates said, "Only an unexamined life is worth living," and I'm a
Uh,
big fan of that philosophy.
Did he really say that? I feel like it's opposite. I forget. I've heard the saying, but it's been not.
Yeah, it's kind of opposite.
Yeah. Plus, he hated the Jews. Oh no, that was Plato.
They're all the same.
Yeah, he probably hated the Jews too. As
Sure, he did.
um,
Everybody hates the Jews, but during National Brotherhood, that's a song too old for you to know. 1968 song, National Brotherhood Week. But the Catholics hate the Protestants, and the Protestants hate the Catholics, and the Hindus hate the Buddhists, and everybody hates the Jews. But during National Brotherhood Week, it's National Everyone Love One Anotherhood Week.
oh, see, the song that I know about Catholics and Jews is um, this one about how Catholics.
We killed your Messiah, nailed him to the wood.
Never
That
heard
one?
that one. No.
I just made it up, that's why.
How I can use a prophylactic if I would like, because I am a Protestant.
Every sperm is sacred. Every sperm
sperm
is
is
good. Every sperm is needed in your neighborhood. Yeah. That's how I learned the difference between Catholics and Protestants. I only knew Catholics growing up. I didn't know what Protestants were.
Yeah, and it's weird
We ain't got
because
those in my neighborhood.
like a week or two ago, I think she was fucking with me. She never really admitted it, but Sarah started talking about Christians and Catholics, and I said, "Well, I mean, Catholics are Christians," and she goes, "But if you ask like your average Christian, what are you? They'll say Christian, and if you say, are you Catholic? They'll say, no, I'm Christian." And I'm almost positive.
Regular, everyday Christians, like all of us in America are.
Yeah, and I'm almost positive she was fucking with me, but I was like, no, no, and I think she was just like enjoying getting me like
Send
irritated.
her a link to everybody out there. You need to
She's
find a
seen it.
video online called Transforming the Faith that's about this very conversation.
Yeah. Well, the video was inspired by her two best friends. Being when I would ask them, we would have these religious and philosophical conversations like 10 years ago, and I would say, "Well, what denomination are you?" And they'd be like, "Just Christian." And I'm like, "That's not a fucking thing."
That's
And
not a religion. That's a category of religions.
well, I would say Christianity is the religion. The denomination is
Well, I mean, it's not a
mem-
religion because there's no doctrine of Christianity.
sure,
It's an overarching category. Like you have
yeah,
Christianity and a million things under it. You've got Islam and you got Sunni and
Shiite,
Shiite and whatever other there's some other ones under. You have different varieties under there. But
yeah,
you got theism and then Christianity and then your other ones. Just being Christian is kind of like just generic.
yeah,
I identify as believing in Jesus, but I don't really follow any religious tenet because
yeah.
what I think is funny is that you guys, you Catholic guys, and you ex-Catholic guys, recovering Catholic guys, Catholics have such a stranglehold. They say the Jews control the media, but so many people who are identify as different flavors of Christianity get confused that Catholicism's rules are rules for all of Christianity. Like I was at a funeral for a friend who took their own life, and Baptist church. And the preacher is telling people how her Bible was like worn and underlined and highlighted and written, like she was really going back to her Bible and struggling with her issues, which I thought was a weird commercial for her religion because she ended up taking her life. So it didn't help her that she was struggling with her issues. But that being aside, he had felt the need to say, and in our religion, that's not a sin taking her own life. Like
Yeah.
she's not down for hell. That's Catholics. But like it's so ingrained because of TV and that, everyone's Catholic in TV shows. Like it's a mortal sin. Like they think, they all think it's part of their religion, even if it's not. Like even the anti-abortion thing. When I was a kid, only Catholics were anti-abortion. Other
Yeah,
Christians weren't. But there was like a political move to make all Christians join on board.
that was because they lost the civil rights movement, and the civil rights they it was the Southern strategy essentially. That was the other side of it was, okay, we are losing we're losing we're having the Civil Rights Amendment. All these other things are happening. This is a dead wedge issue for us. We can't keep playing to it. We can't do this anymore. What's the next thing going to be? How can we pull in some of the Democrats, the Northern Democrats? Oh, we will just make our party the anti-abortion party. Bless you. As we'll make our party the national our anti-abortion party, as you know, it happened to time up pretty well with Roe v. Wade and all that, and maybe I'm talking about the dog wagging the tail.
Roe v. Wade was a 7-2
yeah
decision that nobody cared about. It came after Roe v. Wade. It was the let's take that and make that an issue. But
right, and
we
can pull the Catholics.
Most Christians were not involved in politics as Christians. Like the churches would say, it's not our job. Render unto Caesar. Not like they had to twist them to make them a voting bloc.
Yeah.
And abortion was part of that twist.
Also, the Bible is clearly pro-abortion. So
the only time it's mentioned is when they tell you how to do one.
Yeah, and when to do one. It's kind of like slavery. It's like, oh, what does it say about slavery? It says this is how you do it right.
Yeah.
You know, and same thing with abortion. Now, I don't want to say abortion and slavery are the same thing, but like the way that they are in the Bible.
Morally, in the Bible, they are. They're both okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go.
All right, so before we go, before we throw away to Alex, if you're watching, please give us a subscribe. If you're listening, please make sure that you're following, on your app of choice, and give us a thumbs up or whatever is best for you. A review would be great. YouTube viewers' comments are also awesome. I believe, by the way, that it's Mikey's daughter who has been commenting on a lot of videos. Like every week, she makes at least one comment almost, it seems. That's awesome, and we appreciate that. I think...
Ricochet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had said something about it being Mikey's daughter. So that's awesome. But yeah, keep commenting in the comments. It helps. If you want to either watch these streams live when they happen, right now it's Tuesdays, but we might be going to Mondays in 2025. You could do that for $1 a month at patreon.com/talking about the big stuff. You also would get the edited version 4 days early. If you want to just listen to the nice cleaned up version. If you want to watch or listen to a edited but not any ums and ahs and big pauses and me switching the camera off because I realized that my microphone was the wrong microphone. All that shit gets cut out. Those versions are available also for either $3 or $10 depending on what you want, and that helps us with the show. So that would be great. Matthew, you got anything?
I just want to say thanks to everybody who's here with us talking about the big stuff, because we feel like we can spank you.
And we would love to.
Not you, Cherry, but everybody else does.
Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. It's just the beginning. If you have thoughts or questions or topics you'd like us to tackle in a future episode, drop us a line on our social media channels. Engage with this video when you are now watching it as a VOD on YouTube. Send us an email. We love hearing from our listeners, bringing us topics, because if you leave it up to the three of us, we're going to eventually be talking about underwater basket weaving. So we would appreciate you guys reaching out a little bit. Don't forget to subscribe to Talking About the Big Stuff on your favorite platform. Give us a 5-star rating. Engage with it. Criticize us. We need to grow and be better, and you're going to help us be there. You're going to help us get to that point. It really helps us more to reach out and also to keep the conversation going. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week with more big ideas and more thought-provoking discussions. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep talking about the big stuff.
The preceding podcast has been a Chocolate Diamond Media LLC production. Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.